Good morning. This morning we read 1 Peter chapter 4, and Peter is developing the theme of holiness. Christ died for us. That doesn't mean to say that we can go on sinning, rather that we should live a life that is honouring to him. And he develops this in the context of persecution. He said, Christ suffered for you in his body, so be prepared to suffer for him. And if you don't suffer in your body because of persecution, then put to death those human evil desires and live rather for the will of God. Put off all those ways you used to live, and now live righteously before the one for whom you must stand and give an account. And he warns them the end is near. He warns them to live in a way that is loving to each other. We should have an attitude, every Christian in every generation should live as though the end is near. We don't know when the Lord should return, but we should never be found wanting when that day comes. We should be living ready from there. And so he's encouraging to live ready for the Lord's return. If that means persecution, then go through it so that you're ready for the Lord's return. If that means putting to death the flesh and human desires and living for God's will, then do that. But live ready. If it means loving each other, caring for each other, giving to each other, then do that so you're living ready. God is going to judge the world, the living and the dead. The end of all things is near. Live in that way. And so then he goes on to develop a bit more about the persecution they face. He said, don't be surprised by this. Christ suffered. So you're going to be suffered. You're going to suffer too, because the same Spirit that is at work in you is the Spirit that raised him from the dead. But make sure that if you are tried, if you are arrested, if you are suffering, it's not because of any crime that you've committed. Make sure if you suffer as a Christian. And he goes on to develop this, that we are to be those who obey the Lord and live for him, live worthy of the gospel. And then he says, those who suffer according to God's will should commit themselves to their faithful Creator and continue to do good. And I think this doesn't just fit in the area of persecution. But if we suffer in our health, if we suffer in our minds, if we suffer financially, if we suffer persecution or insults or whatever it is, according to God's will, that doesn't mean to say God has stopped being faithful. We should commit ourselves to him, that in that difficult time our testimony may be true and sure and firm. We should continue to do good even when times are bad. And there's the challenge for us. If you're going through a tough time, if you're going through a hard time, commit yourself to the one who is faithful, to your faithful Creator, and continue to do good.